Good morning. I'm Robert Tan, sitting in for Mikey Oreta, and you're watching Business 360, where we break down the numbers, connect the dots, and give you the developments and the insights you need to navigate, adapt, and lead. Let's dive right in. Bitcoin breaches the $120,000 mark for the first time. A new survey shows a 10-point increase in President Bongbong Marcos' trust rating. And U.S. President Donald Trump issues a 50-day ultimatum for Russia to agree a ceasefire in Ukraine or face the consequences. Let's take a look at how global financial markets performed overnight. Wall Street ended higher as investors sidestepped any meaningful moves after U.S. President Donald Trump's latest tariff threats, a busy week of economic data, and the start of earnings season over the weekend. Trump threatened to slap a 30% tariff on most imports from the European Union and Mexico starting August 1st. This leaves the clock ticking for last-minute trade deals. The EU also extended its pause on retaliatory measures until early August. Investors' reaction was muted despite the headlines, as they have grown numb to Trump's barrage of tariff threats and last-minute backpedals.
So when we're thinking about the latest tariff announcements, think twice before taking a break to go to the beach for the summer. So I would point out, before we start to disentangle or unpack what Trump and the administration is doing, we're kind of in this period of strength for stocks, but September is historically known for bouts of volatility. So I think this could potentially contribute to that.
The Dow rose 0.2%, the S&P 500 gained 0.1%, and the Nasdaq added nearly 0.3%. Europe closed mixed. London's FTSE climbed 0.6%, Germany's DAX lost nearly 0.4%, and France's CAC 40 fell almost 0.3%. Bitcoin topped $120,000 for the first time on Monday, marking a milestone for the world's largest cryptocurrency. This comes as investors bet on long-sought policy wins for the industry this week. Bitcoin reached a record high of more than $122,000 before pulling back slightly, last trading up more than 2% at over $121,000. The U.S. House of Representatives is set to debate bills that would provide the digital asset industry with the regulatory framework it has long demanded. These developments resonate with U.S. President Donald Trump, who has referred to himself as the crypto president and urged policymakers to revamp rules in favor of the industry.
If crypto is going to define the future, I want to be mined, minted, and made in the USA. It's going to be. It's not going to be made anywhere else. And if Bitcoin is going to the moon, as we say, it's going to the moon, I want America to be the nation that leads the way. And that's what's going to happen.
This is a new golden age for Bitcoin. And I think when you look at what's happening in the Beltway under Trump, you're going to have a deregulatory environment, which is a huge positive. And also, this is brought part of a risk-on environment that we're seeing not just for tech stocks, but for Bitcoin, still in the early days of playing out.
President Bongbong Marcos is throwing his full support behind the Malampaya Phase 4 drilling operations. He says it is critical to providing cheaper and more reliable electricity for millions of Filipinos. Marcos conducted an aerial inspection of the Noble Viking drilling rig off Palawan on Monday to see firsthand the efforts to tap new gas wells. The Malampaya field, which supplies about 20% of Luzon's power, is nearing depletion, sparking urgency to boost output and extend its life. Marcos stressed that while the country advances toward renewable energy, natural gas remains a key part of the transition. If successful, the new drilling phase could extend Malampaya's operations until 2034. The country's manufacturing sector inched up by 4.9% in May. Data from the Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, shows that the annual volume of production index, or VOPI, grew faster in May compared to the 4.3% expansion in April. The latest figure also marks the highest growth in 10 months. This was driven by a more than 15% jump in the output of the food product subsector, up from 11.2% in April. Trade Secretary Cristina Roque says the positive outlook for the manufacturing sector serves as a catalyst for Philippine economic growth and increased job opportunities. As factories ramp up production, they also need to hire more workers. President Bongbong Marcos' trust rating rose by 10 points, climbing from 38% in May to 48% in June, based on a social weather station survey commissioned by Stratbase. The survey, conducted nationwide from June 25 to 29 among 1,200 Filipino adults, showed that 48% had a great deal of trust in Marcos, 30% had little trust, and 21% were undecided. Trust in Vice President Sara Duterte also edged up from 60% in May to 61% in June, with 23% saying they had little trust and 14% undecided. Senate President Francis Escudero saw his high trust ratings rise from 47 to 55% over the same period, while 23% expressed little trust and 21% remained undecided. House Speaker Martin Romualdez' much trust rating climbed from 26% in May to 34% in June, matched by an equal 34% who had little trust and 27% who were undecided. The country's banks failed to meet the lending quota for small businesses as of the end of March. Data from Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, or BSP, showed that banks granted 546.82 billion pesos in loans to micro, small, and medium enterprises. This is equivalent to just 4.63% of their total loan portfolio of 11.82 trillion pesos, falling short of the 10% requirement under the Magna Carta for MSMEs. Under the law, banks are required to allocate 8% of their loan portfolio to micro and small enterprises and 2% to medium-sized businesses. Reynel Mat Erese, economist at Oikonomia Advisory and Research Incorporated, explains that this may indicate a pessimistic economic outlook among MSMEs, making them hesitant to borrow. The 20% tariff rate of U.S. President Donald Trump on Philippine goods could lower the demand for coconut. The United Coconut Association of the Philippines warns the higher tariff rate could be passed on to American consumers. This could lead to lower coconut demand and adversely affect Filipino exporters. The U.S. is the second biggest market for Philippine coconuts. But the group is optimistic the tariff rate can still go down as the Philippine government continues its trade negotiations with the U.S. We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and narratives that matter most to your bottom line. In a few weeks' time, President Marcos will deliver his fourth State of the Nation address. Business groups have lauded the Marcos administration for keeping inflation in check and other efforts to boost the country's economy. But are these developments felt by Filipinos? And today we will speak with workers group, Sentro ng mga Nagkaisa at Progresibong Manggagawa, Secretary General Joshua Mata. We'll find out their expectations on the President's fourth SONA. Good morning, Joshua, and welcome to Business 360. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me.
Joshua, let's start with the upcoming SONA by the President. Is your group satisfied with Marcos administration's performance so far? Why and why not?
Well, of course not. They haven't done anything that would substantially help the workers the past 3 years. In fact, the 19th Congress has never done any law that actually helps the working class. The only thing that I remember that they have done is the Magna Carta for seafarers, and that's not even favorable for many seafarers because
why do you say that?
Well, because that would force seafarers who wanted to fight for their rights it would force them to put up a bond. So rather than be able to access their rights, they would have to pay for the access of those rights. So that's very, very problematic. And that was clearly pushed by the employers, not by the seafarers themselves. So this government has never done anything good for the workers so far. No, and that's despite all their promises.
Now, having said that, how can the president improve when it comes to helping Filipino workers?
Well, if he's serious about helping the Filipino workers, he would have to listen, first of all, to the workers. No? This is the only president that I have dealt with in the past 4 decades, almost 4 decades of my trade union work. He has never, not even once, has he ever attempted to meet with the entire labor movement. No? So first he has to listen, no? Because they keep on telling people that they want to improve the workers' situation, but they never listen to what workers really need. What the labor movement has been asking for all these years, we can break it down into 3 things: sahod, karapatan, trabaho. No, which means wages, jobs, and rights. No, of course, when it comes to, if you ask me about a wish list, when it comes to wages, we still want to have a legislated wage hike.
Talking about wages, a 50 peso wage hike was recently passed for Metro Manila workers. Are you satisfied? And for your group, how much increase should NCR workers get? And why?
Of course, we're not satisfied because we have always been asking for a legislated wage increase, because we knew that any wage adjustments done through the regional wage boards would not suffice to lift our working poor from poverty threshold that they were consigned into. No, so in our own calculation, the workers in nationwide would at least need 200 pesos to lift most of the workers in most regions above the poverty threshold.
Is that at a minimum, or is that
That's
average?
For the minimum. That's just for the minimum, no, daily wage. So when they gave the 50 peso wage increase for the NCR, that's precisely designed, that's actually just designed to mollify the anger that workers have felt after the president himself killed the wage hike bill in the 19th Congress. So that's not sufficient. And it will not lift the workers, the minimum wage earners of the National Capital Region above the poverty threshold for a family of 5, assuming you have 2 minimum wage earners in a family.
Now, but that increase that you've mentioned, do you think it's doable?
It is doable if they want to. The problem is the president didn't want to, and he opted to listen to big employers who are hiding behind small-scale, medium-scale enterprises, just so that they won't be able, so that they don't have to pay their workers the proper minimum wage, or a better minimum wage, or something closer to a living wage. In fact, no. The last time that they killed the last Congress, the 19th Congress, when they killed that, it was not the small-scale businessmen who were crying no. It was actually big businessmen like the owners of SM. Go to SM, go to Robinsons, go to these big malls who are earning billions every year, and ask them, how many of them are paying above the minimum wage? I'll tell you right now, none.
What do you say about those kinds of reasoning, saying that if a wage hike does happen at the amount that the laborers want, a lot of these small businesses would actually have to close?
Oh, that's a myth that they have been peddling for the past several years. Every time we ask for a wage increase, that's a myth that they would say. And those myths, we have demolished them, effectively through empirical studies in the past 2 years, when we have gone through a series of legislative hearings, both in the Senate and the House of Representatives. No? We have clearly showed them that even if you look at the empirical data, there's no evidence that shows that would show any of their claims. In fact, in our own study, we have shown that a wage increase could even lead to improvement in jobs, because it will jumpstart the economy, which is essentially dependent on consumption in order to grow. I mean, you've seen economic growth, and they would always say it's consumption driven. Why are they so afraid of wage increases?
Are you still hopeful that after this recently wage hike of 50 pesos, that are you hopeful there would be another increase that would happen?
I think it will not depend on our legislators, because we have seen how spineless they are when it comes to pushing forward for workers' rights. I think it would depend largely on the workers themselves, who would, and if they would learn how to mobilize massively and put pressure on the president. We can force the president, for example, to certify legislated wage increase if there is massive upsurge at the grassroots level. And that's what we're working on.
Now, Joshua, aside from a wage hike, what other things should the government do to improve the working conditions here in our country?
Well, consistent with our demands for sahod, trabaho at karapatan, we also wanted to make sure that once again, the end-endo bill be discussed. We want contractualization front and center of policymaking again, because it's the single biggest hindrance for all workers to access their trade union rights. It's so important for workers to have a union because it's only through the unions that they can actually fight for better wages that's based on the company's income. With collective bargaining, they can ask for even benefits, to improve their welfare. But unfortunately, most workers nowadays are not regular employees, and because they're not regular employees, most of them are employed by agencies, which essentially provides one myth, to justify one myth that the employers are saying, and that's there's no employee-employer relationship. So it prevents us from organizing.
On the ground, when you talk to the workers, what do they actually want in the short run for them to be able to uplift their lives?
Wages, of course, and then security of tenure. Those are the two main issues that workers would always ask for. But on top of that, government should always should think of providing public services, quality, public and universal services, which unfortunately is also something that the 19th Congress failed to do. In fact, rather than improve our health system. Remember, they even zeroed the budget for field health last time. So this time around in the 20th Congress, we'd like to make sure that we will make sure that they will never do that again. That's the reason why we filed the Supreme Court case against them.
Now, for your group, what do you wish to hear from the president during his upcoming SONA?
Well, a lot of things. First, we'd like to hear that he would promise that the budget that they will come up with is not going to be as bad as it was before. Second, we'd like to hear in his own wish list the same issues that workers have been demanding: wage increase, security of tenure bill, and a robust public employment program, as well as better public services. And more importantly, we'd like to see him certify as urgent some of these bills in order to prove that they really care for the workers.
Does this come with a sense of optimism and hope?
Well, not that I have seen right now, but as I said, the only optimism and the only hope that I could base myself on is the fact that the workers would continue to fight for their rights.
And finally, Joshua, if you would rate the president's overall performance on a scale of 1 to 10, what would it be and why?
I think we need to make use of a different scale, because obviously he has completely failed the workers this past 3 years.
Okay, on that note, thank you for joining us, Joshua, for giving your insights on the upcoming SONA of the president. Thank you for joining us here at Business 360.
And thank you for inviting me.
Okay, we're taking a short break. Business 360 will be right back. Trading at the Philippine Stock Exchange opened earlier. Let's look at the initial figures. The PSEI is in the green, trading at 65.30. The sub-indices are mixed. Advancers currently outpacing decliners, 66 to 54. So far, value turnover has reached 572.4 million pesos. Meanwhile, in currency markets, the peso opened at 56.70 to the dollar, depreciating from previous close of 56.63. The net income of the Philippine Stock Exchange Incorporated climbed to nearly 500 million pesos in the first half of the year. That's 25% higher than the 398 million pesos recorded in the same period last year. The increase comes after the local bourse took control of the Philippine Dealing System Holdings Corporation. A new player in the electric vehicle space is charging into the Philippine luxury car market and is making waves fast. Chinese EV brand Zicker, bought in by AutoHub Group of Bilyonaryo Willie T10, has just opened its first showroom in the country, and interest is already picking up speed. Our mobility correspondent G. Baroga has the story.
It's only been a little over a month since AutoHub Group rolled out the Zicker 009, China's eye-catching luxury MPV. And if there's anyone who's all in on its potential, it's Bilyonaryo heir Wayne Titan. He says the 009 has what it takes to stand toe-to-toe with the top luxury car brands already here. In fact, he's confident that once people get behind the wheel, there's no turning back. And the numbers are backing him up.
The 009 has been doing fantastic. It's been getting all praises, good reception. The price, the car, overall, it's a very lovely car. The other halo car that we have is this one, the 7X. We expect it to be our volume or our top-selling unit, besides the 009.
The 7X, a mid-size electric SUV, is poised to be a crowd favorite. And with both models now in the lineup, AutoHub President Willie Titan says the brand is gaining momentum fast.
So the biggest competitor of the 009 is probably this one, the 7X. No? And we are a class of our own. We're actually very premium as far as the MPV is concerned, and also for the SUV.
The Zicker 009 comes in at 4.2 to 4.4 million pesos, while the 7X starts at 2.75 million pesos. And to support the growing interest, Zicker now has a dedicated space where fans can explore these stylish EVs and more. The very first showroom of Chinese luxury EV brand Zicker in the country is now open right in the heart of Bonifacio Global City. And according to AutoHub Group, this marks the beginning of automotive evolution. Chinese executives flew in for the launch, bringing with them the brand's bold global vision, one that blends next-gen innovation with premium design and performance. Zicker International Vice President Jin Jun Chan says the brand may be young, but it's already made big strides globally. Created in 2021, Zicker made headlines when it went public in the New York stock market just 3 years later.
Zicker became the fastest in new energy vehicle brand to go public in U.S. stock market. And currently, more than 500,000 Zicker vehicles are driving globally.
And according to East Asia Director Jeff Gao, the Philippines is shaping up to be a strong market for the brand.
More and more high-income customer here, they would like to choose the mobility vehicle not only for the family use, maybe sometimes for the business use, and also government's strong policy in the EV segment.
As Zicker sets its sights on long-term growth, its leaders say this is just the beginning. The brand is committed to building a premium ownership experience in the Philippines, powered by its partnership with AutoHub. For BNC Mobility, G. Baroga.
The average farm gate price of unhusked rice plunged by nearly 32% in June compared to last year, now averaging just 17 pesos per kilo. The Philippine Statistics Authority also reported that month-on-month, the average palay farm gate price fell 4.3% compared to May. None of the country's 15 major rice-producing regions posted yearly gains, with the lowest prices seen in Calabarzon at just 12.52 pesos per kilo. Even in Bangsamoro, which posted the highest price, rates fell from nearly 27 pesos last year to just under 20 pesos now. The Agriculture Department is now eyeing a possible floor price as farmers struggle to cope with rock-bottom buying rates at 13 to 15 pesos per kilo. Heads up, motorists, another round of oil price hikes takes effect today. Gasoline prices will increase by 70 centavos per liter, diesel by 1 peso and 40 centavos, and kerosene by 80 centavos. The price hike comes after 2 weeks of rollbacks, partly due to renewed attacks by Houthi militants on cargo ships in the Red Sea. A list of influencers has been endorsed to the Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center of the DICT for their involvement in promoting illegal online gambling sites. The advocate group Digital Pinoys has not publicly released the names they endorsed for investigation. But according to them, it includes 8 big names, each with over 1 million online followers. The past week, Digital Pinoys joined forces with the CICC to warn influencers to stop their promotion of online gambling. This follows reported phishing incidents where gambling site users were having their information stolen. Senator Amy Marcos is demanding answers from Malacanang over the death of Filipino business executive Paulo Tantoko in Los Angeles, who was reportedly part of the First Lady's entourage for an event there. Hannah T tells us more.
A call for answers from the president's own sister. Senator Amy Marcos wants Malacanang to report on the death of Paulo Tantoko, who died in Los Angeles on March 8. She notes reports that Tantoko was part of the entourage of First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos for the Manila International Film Festival in LA. The 44-year-old Roostons Group executive died inside his room at Beverly Hilton Hotel because of cocaine effects. A medical examiner reported other significant conditions and also mentioned a cardiovascular disease. For Senator Amy, it's troubling. Claims online say that the First Lady may have personal knowledge about Tantoko's death, saying she was present sometime before, during, or after the event. No official statement has been given by the palace or the First Lady. And given the gravity of these allegations, Senator Amy calls for a comprehensive report from Malacanang, which could help put an end to the questions still swirling around Tantoko's death. Whether direct or indirect involvement of the First Lady or her whereabouts during the incident, it should be included in the report. The palace has yet to release a statement. Hannah Tia, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
We're taking a breather. Business 360 will be right back. The U.S. Supreme Court has cleared the way for President Donald Trump to continue dismantling the Department of Education, advancing his push for more state control over schools. In a brief order, the justices lifted a lower court block that had reinstated nearly 1,400 laid-off employees and halted the transfer of key functions to other agencies. While legal challenges from Democratic states, unions, and school districts continue, the ruling marks a major win for Trump's agenda. The department, created in 1979, handles college loans, civil rights enforcement, and federal school funding. Duties critics say could be gutted under the plan. Trump's administration argues the move will shrink bureaucracy and return education decisions to the states. U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday renewed his attacks on Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. During a White House Faith Office luncheon, Trump said interest rates should be at 1% or lower. He lashed out at Powell for keeping up the rates at currently 4.5%.
The economy is roaring, business confidence is soaring, incomes are up, prices are down, and inflation is dead. It's dead. We have a bad Fed chairman, really bad. If he would lower the rates, and I tried being nice to the guy, it doesn't help. He's like a knucklehead. No, he's a knucklehead. Stupid guy. He really is. You know, each point, think of this, each point costs us $360 billion.
U.S. President Donald Trump warns that Russia will face about 100% tariffs if it does not end its war in Ukraine within 50 days. This comes as he laid out plans for new infusions of weaponry for Kyiv through NATO. Trump, who previously called Russian President Vladimir Putin genius and savvy for the Ukraine invasion, now says he is unhappy with Putin, emphasizing that his patience has finally snapped over the leader's refusal to end the 3-year-old occupation of Ukraine.
And one of the reasons that you're here today is to hear that we are very unhappy, I am, with Russia. But we'll discuss that maybe a different day. But we're very, very unhappy with them, and we're going to be doing very severe tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. Tariffs at about 100%. You'd call them secondary tariffs. You know what that means.
So what we will do is work through the NATO systems to make sure that we know what Ukrainians need, so that we can make packages. Of course, in a way, we discussed it this morning with Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon, in a way that, of course, the US will keep on its stockpiles necessary to defend this country. That's absolutely clear. But it will mean that Ukraine can get its hands on really massive numbers of military equipment, both for air defense, but also missiles, ammunition.
The U.S. Commerce Department is withdrawing from a 2019 deal suspending an anti-dumping duty on fresh tomatoes from Mexico, adding that it will issue duties of 70% on most imports from the U.S. neighbor. The agreement regulates Mexican tomato exports to the U.S. in a bid to allow American farmers to compete fairly. Over the weekend, President Trump threatened to impose a 30% tariff on imports from Mexico starting August 1st. Mexico has yet to issue a statement on the matter. Monsoon rains trigger flash floods in Pakistan, killing more than 100 people. Dozens of fatalities are children. Most deaths were caused by electrocution and flash floods, with Punjab province hardest hit. Authorities have issued fresh warnings for heavy rain, flooding, and landslides in the coming days. While monsoon rains are crucial for agriculture, they often bring deadly consequences. Pakistan remains one of the countries most vulnerable to climate change. It's a bird, it's a plane, and it's a hit. James Gunn's Superman reboot continues to soar as it takes the #1 spot at the box office with a 100. And that's it for Business 360. I'm Robert Tan, sitting in for Mikey Oreta. Thank you for joining us. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.